Hello, it's Gail here from Three Wise Crafters and welcome back to my channel. My 9-year-old daughter will also be making a card and her card turns out a lot better, so make sure you stick around for that. I'm using the Waffle Flower Postage Collage die as well as the Postage Collage Rose Stencil and the Postage Collage stamp set. We haven't used these products before and we both had a lot of fun, so I'm sure we will have lots more fun with the Postage Collage range. So I'm just using some tape to adhere the die to my card panel, and I'm using Distress White Heavystock for all of our card panels today. So once that's been through the die cutting machine, I can remove the die, and then off screen I end up poking out all the little holes from our postage collage to save some time. So here I'm using the scrap piece of paper from our A2 panel, and I'm just putting our postage collage cutout back into that, and I'll use some low-tack tape to adhere the two pieces together just so that I can line up the stencils a lot easier. I found it hard to line the stencils up otherwise, and I'm just using some removable tape so I can stick this down to the Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. And I use the Make Art Station for all of my stenciling. So I'm just using Distress Ink Spun Sugar to do a coloured background. I could have cut this out of pink cardstock instead, but I didn't think of it at the time because I didn't have a plan for what cards I was making, and I just thought it was easier to ink blend some colour down, and it gives some different shading on our postage collage as well, especially around the perforations. Now I do go back in and put down more colour where I think it needs it. In some areas it was quite pale and the cardstock looked more white than it did pink, so I'd go back in and just add it where I needed to. In some areas it had a heavier coverage, but once we did all the stenciling, this didn't make any difference. So you don't need to have perfect ink blending on your background. And you could do this with any color, and the same if you were using a colored cardstock. You could make your card into anything that you wanted. So once we've done that, we'll be able to put our first stencil down, and it has etched lines on the stencil, which makes it really, really easy to line your stencil up with your cardstock. And that's why I ended up putting the postage collage cutout back into the scrap bit, because it makes it easier to line up the etches of your stencil. So here I'm using Distress Ink Worn Lipstick to go over our first stencil, and this is a really quick process. You don't need to have perfect coverage. Your inks will end up drying back a little bit, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You don't get perfect shading when you see a rose in the garden either. And it just gives highlights and shadows as well. So here I'm just finished the first stencil, and that's how quick it is. And I use Isocol rubbing alcohol to clean all of my stencils, and they turn out really well with using the rubbing alcohol. And I just get that from my local supermarket here in Australia. So I've put down a number 2 stencil, and I'm using Distress Ink Mowed Lawn to go over all the leaves. And again, this is a really quick process. I don't think the stenciling took longer than 15 minutes. I don't even think it took that. It probably took about 10 minutes. The longest process was actually cleaning my stencils. So once we've done the mowed lawn, there is a sentiment with love on this stencil, and I didn't want that in green. So you'll see me come in with a different color to be able to do the sentiment on this stencil. So for the sentiment, I end up using Distress Ink Black Soot. and I've used a big blending brush here, and then I realized that I would probably actually get black ink where I don't want it, so I changed to a small blending brush. And I'm just using Gina K Designs blending brushes today, but you can use whatever blending brushes you have. And I even have some that are from Amazon, and they work just as well. So we're finished stencil 2. And you can already see that our card is coming together really well. And now we're on to stencil 3, which just does the little diamond parts. And this is really, really quick. And I've used festive berries for the diamonds. You could use not distress ink, a paste for either the diamonds or the sentiment, or you could even go in with your embossing ink, and then you could use embossing powder, which would give it a different look and some texture. So here we've finished all of our stenciling on the first card, which is the one that I've done. So I'm happy with how that turned out. Now this is my daughter doing hers, and she picked out all the colors herself. And so the first color that she is using is Festive Berries from the Distress Ink range. So she'll just go in and she'll ink blend, and she loves doing stencils. So every time I'm sitting down to do a stencil, she wants to do the ink blending, and most of the time I have to let her do it. So she wanted to do one of these cards today, and she wanted to be part of the video, so we decided that she could. So usually when I have a stencil or a stamp and stencil, I've got to do extra stamping cards so that she can color these herself off screen, and most of the time she'll use her pencils or textures to color these in. She loves drawing and coloring, and she's quite a good drawer actually, and she does not get that from me. I cannot draw at all. So she'll spend most of her weekends just drawing and coloring if she's not joining me to make cards. So she's very particular. She keeps going back and adding in a lot more of the festive berries on those roses. And then on the hearts. So she just needed me to help her with cleaning the stencils and lining the stencils up. She didn't want to use the rubbing alcohol, which is fair enough, and I'd rather she didn't. So she's using Mowed Lawn for the green parts, and she was given the option of using whatever ink colors that she wanted. So she chose all of these herself, and she has a really, really good eye for color combinations. So sometimes in my videos, I let her choose the colors, and then I just make the products. She can choose colors a lot better than what I can. So probably she should be doing the videos instead of me. But she just keeps going back in and adding more of the mowed lawn where she wants it. And she said to me later that she was really, really happy with how she ended up with light and dark areas on the leaves. Even though she hasn't done any stenciling for a while and she had sort of forgotten what she needed to be doing. But she did a really good job. So she decided that she was going to do the black soot for the sentiment with love as well. And she could have done something different, but she just wanted to stick with that. She thought it was easier and that it stood out well on her card. And she'd forgot to cover the H, but she went back in and she fixed that up. And she probably added a lot more ink than what she needed to, but that's okay. And that card to me looks really, really good just as it is. So she's gone in with Worn Lipstick to do Stencil 3. And she found this one a little bit harder. She wasn't getting the ink where she wanted it to be, but she ended up going back and putting more ink on her brush. She tended to forget that she needed to do that at times, but when she did, it turned out pretty good. So she didn't put the card together on the base. She's not up to that stage yet. She leaves that to me to do. But she had chose the color for her card base off screen, and I end up putting the card together for her. So she's just got one little bit to go and then she's finished. And she was really, really proud of what she had achieved. So it won't be long before she takes my place in doing all the videos. So I really hope that you like what she's done today and that you give the video a thumbs up, because she'll be really happy to see that people enjoyed what she's done. So I've just put the card that my daughter has made, the card panel. I'm putting down some tapes just so that I can stick it to the mouse mat in my MISTI. And then I end up lining up all of the stamps that we're going to use from the Postage collage. Now, I ended up doing that off screen because it was taking me a while to line the steps up, because they were really, really sticky and some of them are very, very small. I didn't condition the stamps at all before I inked them up with jet black ink from Fawn. I forgot that my jet black ink needs to be re-inked and I don't have a re-inker. So normally I use VersaFine Onyx Black when I'm doing inking, but I had forgot today. So I needed to go back in multiple times to put more ink on, especially on the left-hand side on the circle stamp that says sending hugs, I think, or hugs inside. And it was really difficult to stamp that one, and I think that was more because of the perforations. So I think I ended up having to re-ink the stamps 3 times or even 4 times for that to actually work properly. But once we've done all of the inking on my daughter's card, we can then move on to the card panel that I had stenciled. So I've got a Lawn Fawn chamois and I just clean off my stamps with that, and I did that off screen as well because that took me a while. So I've got my panel here and I'm just going through the same process, except I did move the stamps around. But this time I did get out my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. So until I get a re-inker for my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, I'll have to wait until I'll have to use the VersaFine Onyx Black ink and remember to use it. So here I've done all the stamping and you can see the panel. I didn't do as much stamping on this one as what I did on my daughter's. But I've got the card color that she had chose as her card panel, which is real red from Stampin' Up. And I've just got some 3M foam adhesive here. And I'm just sticking that down on all the card back and trying not to get the foam tape on the perforation areas. Otherwise, that would show through on our card. So once this is all stuck down, I cut it off screen just because of the workspace that I've got. It's not a very big area. And once that's down, I can peel off all the backing. And you'll see, once I've peeled off all the backing, you'll see that I go to stick this down onto the real red card panel and then realize that I haven't put any glue on the back. So usually I put some glue on the back, and I use Neenah K Connect glue, and I have that in a small fine tip bottle. It just reduces the amount of glue that comes out and makes it easier for smaller die cuts. So here I'm just sticking that down, and I'm glad that I've got the glue on because I needed to reposition my panel. And now that we've got that down, we'll be able to stick that down to our card base. And I'm just using Express It high tack double-sided tape here. And I use scissors to cut mine. I struggle to tear the tape. I see people tearing the tape all the time, but it's not something that I've ever been able to do. So again, once that's down, I can take off the backing bits off our tape, and I'll use Neenah K Connect glue again on the tape, just in case I need to reposition my card panel on the card base. Sometimes we don't always get it lined up as much as what we would like to. And we just need to have a bit of wriggle room to move it if we need to. So once that's down, and I just line up one corner, and then usually it lines up fairly well. Once you've got one corner lined up and one side, the rest falls into place. So her card looked really, really pretty. So I decided that I wanted to do something different with mine. So I just used a knife and a metal ruler, and I cut them apart, my panel, as if it was postage stamps. But you will see in a little bit that I actually didn't like it, and I struggled a lot to come up with a card idea. You could use a guillotine or a trimmer to do this instead and be much quicker, but I just got the scissors out and my cutting knife. It's all I had for years and years, so I'm used to doing it. So I'm using Stamping Up Night of Navy cardstock for my base. I thought that that would show up the pink a lot better, and I'm just using double-sided sticky tape from Express It again, and it's a 6mm width. And I probably put too much on. I could have got away with probably 4 pieces, but it's better to have too much than not enough. So again, once I've taken the backing pieces off, I can go in with the Neenah K Connect glue and give myself a little bit of wriggle room if I need it when I'm putting down the card panel to the card base. And it's the same process, putting one corner down and then lining up an edge and dropping it down. Now here, this is where I was trying to work out my card design, and I left this in even though this isn't the finished card, just so that you could see that we don't always get it right, and sometimes we just need to play around. Now I played around a lot longer off screen to try and get a design, and then I ended up going back to the Postage collage format, but I gave it a bit of a gap instead in between the stamped sort of images that we create. And I've used foam tape on some pieces and put Connect glue on the foam, and other pieces I've just used double-sided tape, and that just gives us some different heights with our finished card. Now, I'm not really happy with my card. I think my daughter's card turned out much, much better. But at the end of the day, this is what I made, and you just have to be happy with what you've made at the time. It's where your brain was at, and sometimes when we're tired or we've got other things going on, we don't always make to the standard that we want. But I left this in anyway, just so that you could see that things don't always work out. I struggle at times, and I've been struggling the last few days with making some cards, and I've got videos made, and I don't actually like the cards that I came up with. Well, one of them I haven't actually finished into a card yet. And you just saw me there repositioning the With Love one. It wasn't quite straight. So as I was saying, I've got some videos in progress. I've got some things made, but I can't work out how to create what I've made into a card. So I've just set them aside at the moment, and I've left the videos in progress. So at some stage, hopefully I can come up with a finished card, and then I'll be able to upload those videos as well. I tend to cut the 3M foam tape off screen because it's quite sticky and it gets stuck to my scissors a fair bit. So once I've stuck this bit down, my card is actually finished. So you'll be able to see my card and my daughter's card, and I think her card looks much, much better. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and give the video a big thumbs up. Thank you for watching.